and welcome to Literary Hype. I am Stephanie, your Literary Hype Woman, and I'm very excited to welcome this author back for the Author Chat series. I got to introduce you to her last year with her debut novel, which was Nothing But the Truth, and now Holly James is back with a new magical romance novel. It is called The Deja Glitch, and this is the normal size version. You've probably seen me talking about this one because it is huge and just asks to be talked about. So, whichever size you prefer. Holly and I met up at the conclusion of San Diego Comic-Con to talk about the Deja Glitch and all what she's up to next. And trust me, you're gonna wanna stick around for those answers. So without any further ado, here is my conversation with Holly James. We've got book 2 that is coming out, The Deja Glitch. How are you feeling going into the release of your second novel?
Really excited, honestly. I feel like there's a lot more momentum behind this one, and I think it really kind of feels more like my romance debut than Nothing But the Truth did, because that one was kind of more women's fiction, although a lot of people do stick it in the romance section of stores and libraries. But this one is squarely, I think, more in the romance genre, so it's a different crowd with excitement about it, and it's been very fun to get to see the ramp up. So hopefully it lasts through the actual launch and sustains for a little while after.
You often hear authors talking about the sophomore slump.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about how the second book differed from the first in your process.
Okay, so that's a great question, and I hadn't really realized how I went through that process till someone pointed it out to me. So Nothing But the Truth came out in last year, so summer of 2022, but I wrote it in 2020. And this one, The Deja Glitch, I wrote in the summer of 2021. So I was done with it before my first book even came out. So I've heard a lot of authors talk about that sophomore slump where they're trying to produce the second book amidst all the, revisions and then publication excitement of the first book, and then the reviews start coming in. There's just so many voices in your head that it's really hard to detach from that and keep the creative momentum flowing for your second book. And I didn't do that intentionally. I got the idea for this and it just flew out of me. And I do remember, though, I had copy edits for The Deja Glitch were due on pub day of Nothing But the Truth. And I was like, is this necessary? Probably not, publishing team. but it worked out. It all worked out. So yeah, this one I really had to kind of refresh myself on it because I did write it 2 years ago at this point. But it's been fun. I actually reread it the other day just to be up on it and fresh. And I really love it. So yeah, I guess I've kind of had a unique experience. But again, it wasn't intentional. It just happened that way.
Introduce us to what's going on in The Deja Glitch.
All right, so this book, I've realized in describing it, I have a very short, one sentence blurb, and then people are always like, and? So I'll give you both. So the super high level is it's a twist on a time loop story where we have strangers who are stuck in a 24-hour time loop, and they have to fall in love to break out of it. But the catch is the guy can remember everything, and the girl feels like it's the first day they've met every time. So he basically has to convince her to fall in love with him in one day. The longer version is it's set in LA, again, kind of on the periphery of the entertainment industry, the way that Nothing But the Truth was. The main character, Gemma, is a radio producer. I just thought it would be fun to play with the music industry, even though I'm not even remotely related to it. And then Jack, our hero, is a screenwriter, a television screenwriter, and they're both stuck in their lives in various ways, kind of professionally and personally and romantically. And then when they meet each other, they realize they're literally stuck in a time loop, and they have to kind of resolve all these different things to find their way out of it, including falling in love with each other.
So often when you have a time loop story, you're following the perspective of the person who knows they're in a time loop and the one that is living it over and over again. This time we're following someone who doesn't know she's in a time loop. Talk about the decision to kind of flip that and make it a little bit more fresh than you would see from another trope.
Yeah, that's my favorite reaction from readers. Is I've seen so many, I've been tagged in so many, early reviews where they say like, oh, I didn't really want to read another time loop, but then this isn't what I was expecting, and I love that. And I can say I didn't really set out to do that, so I didn't intend for this to be a time loop story from the start. It just kind of organically happened. The original hook was I wanted to write a story about a couple where one person couldn't remember the other person in a comedic way, and I didn't really know how to execute that. I just wanted it to happen, and so this was the summer of 2021. So that idea was floating around in my head, and then coincidentally, Olivia Rodrigo's song "Deja Vu" was literally everywhere, and I remember hearing it and had this like true like light bulb moment of like, oh, deja vu, that's perfect. Like this idea of I've been here before, but I don't know why. I recognize this person, I don't know why. So those ideas kind of fused together, and then somehow a time loop worked its way in there as well. And I knew all along I wanted to tell the story from the perspective of the person who couldn't remember in the relationship, and then that's where the time loop, I guess, played into it, that she couldn't remember the loop at all. And I also put a spin on it in that we only see a single day of the loop, so there is no repetition in this story. There's a reference to repetitions, but you actually don't see anything happen multiple times, which was fun and challenging to think about, like, oh, if this has already happened, how would this play out? There's a lot of logic building in this story that I was really, really particular about and obsessed with.
Did you like build out a timeline of like when things would have happened in those days before she knows?
I did, yeah. So by the time we see the story, they've been stuck in the loop for 5 months, and I chose that. I actually chose the number 147 because that's my favorite number to use to exaggerate like anything. Like, oh, it's 147 degrees today. I don't know why, but I
was definitely going to ask about the 147.
Actually, that came from one of my really good friends in high school. That was her favorite number, and it just kind of stuck. But anyway, I also wanted to make it logical in the sense that like he's like in love with her, and to really truly have that level of feelings for someone, it couldn't have been like a week, it had to be a substantial amount of time. So that evens out to about 5 months, and I figured that's reasonable. I would catch myself, like I would be writing a scene and think of like, if this had already happened before, would it make sense for him or her to do this or that? And a couple of times I had to go back and realize like, oh no, that doesn't make sense. In the very opening scene of the book, after it had completely gone through copy edits, and I like emailed my editor and I was like, wait, I remembered something that needs to change. And she was like, Holly, no one's going to notice that unless they read the book like 10 times. And I was like, but I will know, so it has to be perfect. But that's just me. That's my level of obsessive attention to detail in my stories. Which
we need more of sometimes.
Definitely.
The accuracy of the details can really make or break a story.
Oh, totally.
If it, like, I'd read one recently that I will not name that had a lot of details that I personally know are wrong.
Oh.
And so everyone's like, it's so great. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's not. I am going to flip tables. It's not that hard. Google, people. Google. But so talk a little bit about that and how your process is in making sure those details all line up.
I just get really obsessed with it. I really do. And I think too, when you write a story with some element of magic to it, it's kind of a little bit of a crutch where you can say like, well, it's part of the magic if it doesn't make perfect sense. But still, even with Nothing But the Truth too, I thought very critically about, I guess the logic of the magic in that story. Like, why couldn't she lie? And if she can't lie, can she think lies? Can she act lies? Like, where's the line? But yeah, I guess that's helpful in crafting the story and making it make sense. But I think I do kind of get carried away, honestly. My editing team is very patient with how obsessed I am with details.
This book starts out in a bar, which is kind of similar to Nothing But the Truth, an LA bar. And one of the first like really funny moments of this was when you're talking about how pretentious LA bars are with the beets and the homemade syrups. Is there a particular bar that inspired this comment?
There is. So I thought after the fact, I totally should have made it the bar from Nothing But the Truth. I mean, we can pretend it is. Maybe it
that
is.
Works.
It is.
It is. We decided that right here.
That was like a second draft or a later on draft where I was kind of beefing up the detail of that scene, and I wanted it to be really specific to a bar in LA. And I actually Googled like a menu from, I don't remember which one it was, but they did have like house-made organic syrups and beets in their drinks. And I was like, oh, that's gross and pretentious and probably delicious. I don't know. But yes, it is based on something real, but I can't remember the name of the restaurant.
That's awesome. I was like, it was so specific. It had to be real.
I do that. So every location in both of my books is inspired by a real place. If it's not specifically referenced what it is, I like shop for all my houses on Zillow, and I shop all the restaurants in West Hollywood and West LA to find the ones I want to inspire everything.
Did you make her favorite drink a Negroni before or after it was everywhere?
Before. It was before. And I actually, as research for this book, I ordered one in a restaurant, and it's disgusting. I don't know I'm sorry if anyone likes them, but I couldn't do it. No, that was last summer, wasn't it? The whole House of Dragons interview thing.
I'm like, yeah. I can't remember. What is time?
Yeah, no.
Time makes no sense.
Not real. But I think they were they were trendy in 2021 for some reason before that, and I had never had one, and I come from an Italian family, and I was like, well, maybe I should try one. And I didn't like it, but I feel like it's kind of unique, that she has a favorite drink that's not very good.
Did it have Prosecco in it?
It did not. And I'm blanking on the quote. I'm trying to make a joke about it, but I can't think of, what does she say?
It's like, a Negroni, Spagliato, with Prosecco in it.
And then the other...
stunning!
Yes, stunning, that's what it is. Oh, stunning.
And then she mentioned how the bar is the same one from Nothing But the Truth. That is not the only Easter egg in there. If you think I was not going to catch that, oh, I did.
Yay!
How much fun was it to kind of get that little nod to Lucy?
Oh, it was so good. I love that. At first, I didn't have her full name in there, and then I went back and added it because as a reader, I love that so much. You just kind of like, when you see something like that. So
definitely squealed out loud.
Yes. I wanted to deliver that to readers. So good. I'm glad you appreciated it.
I marked that so fast. It was like, Lucy lives. So we are at San Diego Comic-Con, tail end of it, but it's still Comic-Con, and it's appropriate that we are talking about this book at Comic-Con because of all the pop culture references in that.
Yeah.
You've got Big Bang Theory, you've got Back to the Future. How much fun was it to think of ways to pull pop culture into this? And did it feel like it was dating it, or is it something that you think can live on enough?
Oh, well, Back to the Future is a classic. I hope that didn't date anything, but sometimes I do wonder. I'll make a joke, like a pop culture reference, and I'm like, oh shoot, I don't know, are Gen Z reading this now and they're gonna have no idea what that means? My editor's usually pretty good at catching things like that, but I don't know. I don't know that I did that really intentionally. It just kind of fit with the descriptions I was using, and I mean so those two that you mentioned, they do go to Caltech to talk to a physicist, and I know most people know Caltech because of the Big Bang Theory. And then the physicist they meet, I think, just the way I envisioned him, I was like, oh, he looks like Doc Brown. Like, of course I'm going to describe him just like that. So, yeah, they just popped in there. Welcomed themselves right on in.
I mean, I did see the cast of Big Bang Theory here one year. So.
Oh, really?
Yes. You never know who you're going to see on the floor at Comic-Con.
That's exciting.
Back when the WB had its big booth with the interviews up top. It was great. So, yeah, I was actually going to ask if Dr. Woods was a specific reference to a Big Bang character.
No, not specifically. And actually, another little fun pop culture thing there. His name is Dr. Woods because as I was drafting that scene, it was the 20th anniversary of Legally Blonde, and Elle Woods was in my head, and I was like, oh, perfect. I'm not very good at coming up with names, so I take inspiration from any source, and that just happened to fall into place.
Naming characters is hard.
Oh, it's so hard. It's so hard.
Bravo for pulling these things together. So you talked about going to Caltech. The characters do go to Caltech to find the science behind what's going on. Yeah. How much research did you do to try to explain this time stuff? Because you had some details in there.
Okay, well, good. I'm glad it came across that way. So you probably haven't seen the acknowledgments in the finished copy yet, but I have not. Thank two of my friends from graduate school who are physicists. But I specifically mentioned how I did not ask them to confirm anything because I was afraid they would tell me it's all wrong. And I know it's wrong. I made it up. But I don't know. I thought about it logically, I guess. I mean, I'm a scientist in my day job. I'm not a physicist, but I wanted it to make some kind of sense. I don't know. So I guess I played with... I actually don't even remember if I searched for any research on a time loop. Maybe I did at some point, but... And I've had people say, like, oh, this is so cool. I love the science in here. And I'm like, guys, I made it up. It's not real.
Nothing But the Truth and the Deja glitch both have magical realism. Mm-hmm. What is it about that you love? I
like kind of the freedom in it, in that it allows you to just think outside the box and work beyond the general construct of a romance. Makes it fun. And it's... I don't know, fun to just kind of make up this world. I really don't think I could ever write fantasy, like that level of world building and magical systems and logic. My brain just does not work that way, and I'm so impressed by writers who can do that. But I think just the little touch of it is fun. And the romance market is incredibly crowded, so anything that can put a little twist on something is hopefully helpful.
Romance has blown up so much.
Yeah.
In the era of TikTok.
Oh, yeah.
Have you found any books through TikTok that you love?
I actually don't TikTok. I don't tick or talk. I don't know. I try to stick to social media that I really find joy in and that I have time to do. And I just haven't ventured onto TikTok, although people will tell me they saw my book on TikTok, and I'm like, yay, great, fantastic. But I don't know. I'm afraid of it, slightly afraid of it.
So you're based in San Diego, and the books are set in LA. Mm-hmm. Have you gone to LA on research missions just to kind of put yourself in the actual atmosphere, or is this just like details you've pulled from other visits?
From trips. I don't think I have specifically gone. No, that's not true. So there is a scene in here where they're at the Urban Light sculpture outside the Los Angeles. I always say it wrong. LACMA, whatever that stands for, the art museum. So the big 1920s light poles. What are they called? Street lights. Words are hard. So there's a whole scene where they're there, and I think I had already drafted it, but we were in LA, and I was like, oh, we have to go, and I went and wandered around, and just to make sure that everything I had put in the scene actually made sense with the structure of them and the way that they walk through them and everything. But I did have my best friend lived in LA for several years, so I've been there plenty of times, and I have the general vibe for it, and have been to most places. I do really want to go to a show at the Hollywood Bowl and find my way backstage. I don't know, maybe it'll happen. It's research. I have to, right?
You set up my next question perfectly, because I definitely wanted to ask about the scenes at the Hollywood Bowl. Those are so epic.
Yay.
Like the backstage stuff without any spoilers. Because it is toward the end of the book. But the backstage stuff and then like the show part of things are both really epic and hilarious and wonderful.
Thank you. That's what I was shooting for.
I just love them so much. What was it like for you to write these like really... Well, epic is just really the only word I can think of for these scenes.
It's like the grand gesture I could think of. And I feel like that was really appropriate for the ending of the book, because it's been such this long journey for them together, and it needed to pull out all the stops to really be successful in the end of the story. So yeah, I was a band geek all through elementary school all the way to college, so I have a lot of like performance experience. Not like a rock band, not rock star status, of course, but I have experienced the whole backstage atmosphere, before a performance, and kind of big production kind of performance type of things, and so I know what that energy feels like, and that really exciting, anxious anticipation of this big performance. So I tried to channel that into there, and also so my husband actually had some experience in the music world when he was a teenager. Actually, he was actually signed to a record label, and guess what his band was named?
Do tell.
Azalea.
Oh no!
So
did he have feelings about you totally ripping off his band name?
I asked permission for sure. That's also in the acknowledgements.
There's so many details in the acknowledgements that I did not get.
There are. Yeah, no, he was fine with it. But I did draw on his experience too. So, I asked him a lot of questions about that kind of caliber of performance. He never played at the Hollywood Bowl or anything like that. But he did play at some venues in LA. And so he helped me get the details right there. And like the details on the level of like, if they were standing here, what would it sound like? Like, how loud would it be? Could they talk to each other? And yeah, he was helpful for that.
It's always good to have people around you that know things to help you write your book.
Like very, very niche things, yes, for sure.
Like Victoria Aveyard married a doctor.
Oh yeah.
And so she's always sharing like back from when they were just friends of like when she was writing and like, can somebody die from this?
Yes.
Or what would happen if this happened?
Oh no, yeah.
And he would give her the medical explanation.
Yeah,
it's so useful.
My dad and my best friend are both in the medical field, and I text them all the time, like, if someone broke this bone, like, what would happen? And yeah, no one breaks bones in this, don't worry.
No. It's not that dramatic of a rom-com. There is some depth to this one with the family situation for Little Miss Gemma. Talk about how your psychology background helps write characters, especially with like this family turmoil that's going on.
Oh, that's a good question. I never like. It sounds weird for a psychologist to say, but I never analyze my own writing until I'm like talking to someone about it. I'm like, oh, that I do that, don't I? But yeah, so I wanted there to be more obstacles in their way than just having to develop feelings for each other. I wanted them to be stuck in kind of all these different aspects of their lives. And so that kind of just fit for her to have some family struggles. And I don't know, I thought a lot about what it would be like to kind of, this is going to be spoilery, I don't know how to say this without being spoilery, but to feel kind of like abandoned by your parents, you know, and what that would make her like as an adult in terms of like romantic relationship attachments and just the way she trusts other people, particularly men. And I mean, I think that kind of plays out with her natural skepticism throughout the whole story.
I don't feel like it's too spoilery. It's not too far in that we get into that. So it's not the ending spoiler. It's fine. Everything's fine.
Okay, good.
So last time we talked, you were drafting book 3. Mm-hmm. How's that coming?
Oh, it's done. Yeah, I submitted the first round of developmental edits like 2 weeks ago. And again, publishing just has this knack for lining everything up right on top of each other. So my editor will probably send it back to me like the day this book comes out and be like, here you go, edit it again. No, I don't know. It just happens that way all the time. You know, they're on these incredibly long production timelines and somehow they all land right on top of each other. But I'm really excited about that book now. I honestly struggled with it a lot. It has changed multiple times. I completely gutted 20,000 words from it and pivoted twice. So it's on its like third major rewrite now, but it's so much better than it initially was, and I'm excited to keep it going and get it through editing and see what my editor thinks about it. So hopefully it's good.
So the sophomore slump hit with book 3.
I mean, maybe, yeah. It's what would that be, the junior slump? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Is there a book 4 on the way?
Funny you should ask. Book 4 in the rom-com genre is kind of, well, it has to wait in line behind book 3, essentially, so I have to wait until my contract allows me to share it with my publisher. But I haven't even told my agent about it yet either, but there is one I really, really hope makes it to the round of consideration because I love it so much, and it's actually set in San Diego. So yeah, we'll see what comes out of that. But actually, fun story, I wrote a book in a different genre that actually sold on Friday. So yeah, we're waiting for the final contract terms to come in, hopefully tomorrow. But that was a little side project that turned into something cool. So
can you say what genre?
That's a great question because I don't know. No, we're calling it like I think I would call it like a suspense rom dramedy. So if you think about like the recent movies like Ghosted or like Shotgun Wedding or The Lost City, something like that, like kind of actiony, kind of. I hope it's funny. I intended it to be funny. We'll see, and a little bit of romance. So.
This sounds amazing. I'm already in.
It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever written, and I love it so much. So
I'm already in. You can just send that right on over. Here for it.
Great.
So the last question, your favorite question, what books are you hyped about right now?
Oh gosh. I have the pile in my house is out of control. It's like dangerously tall at this point. What I finished, Megan Collins' Thicker Than Water. It's her new thriller. Super good. I listened to the audiobook in like a day. I read Riley Sager's new thriller, 2, which I'm blanking on the name. Only One Left?
Yeah.
Yes.
Something along those lines. Only and Left are definitely in there.
I enjoyed that one. I have a whole pile of rom-coms to catch up on. Jessica Joyce, You With a View. It's her debut. It just came out. Ashley Poston's new one, The 7-Year Slip, is also on my pile. I don't even know. I have so many. We're having a vacation in Mexico in September, and I'm literally bringing like 10 books with me and not talking to anyone for a week. So
you are my people. You are my people.
Very excited.
Well, thanks so much for hanging out with me.
Of course.
And talking about your books. Deja Glitch. So good.
Yay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks again to Holly for braving the San Diego Comic-Con crowds. Like, we met up as it was ending and people were everywhere. So to find a space to talk to her without all of the crowds was a feat in and of itself, and for her to get there amongst the traffic was not an easy task. So I appreciate her taking the time out of her day to come down to talk about the Deja Glitch. If you want to get your hands on a copy of this or her first book, Nothing But the Truth, the links to do that are down below, as well as where to find her on social media so you can see what she's up to all the time. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button down below, and I will see you next time.